Ancel. So we had reached the point, Brother Ancel, on your role with Engage, and you are the Director of Operations. So before we start, for the benefit of our viewers out there, who or what is Engage?
Sure, great. So Engage is a Muslim political advocacy organization. The purpose and the focus, in short, is to educate, empower, and engage the Muslim community with elected officials. The best way I can describe that is, and bringing it home. Many khutbahs, I'm always going to be referring to Juma khutbahs, we always hear many of the imams talk about how we don't own anything here. We're just custodians for all this belongs to Allah. One of the great ways of how I look at what we do is, what I've learned is, we always talk about elected officials, but I want to get our community to start looking at them also as custodians. And the reason why is because I've been in this position before. These are when we as Americans pay into our taxes, whether state, federal, local, those tax dollars go into a pot that is divided up, and you have these individuals that we identify that they will be the best people to make policy decisions and also how best to spend the money for the benefit of as many people in this country as possible. They're custodians. They have these multi-million, trillion-dollar budgets to be custodians, to say, what do we... So we want to encourage the Muslim communities to say, let's make sure we have our say-so in who we think will be a great custodian of the resources and opportunity to help create a better life for not only the Muslim community, but all of South Florida, all of the country. And that's the reason why we want to make sure we engage our people to be involved in identifying who will be those great custodians of these resources for us.
So Engage motivates people to get involved in the voting process, technically.
Correct.
Now, that brings us to another question. Does Engage support any one of the party, basically, or they are supposed to support both parties?
So the good news about Engage is Engage has an umbrella organization for several other entities.
Right.
We have our foundation division, which is really geared towards educating the community and encouraging them to get out the vote, making phone calls, and encouraging them to make sure that their voter registration is updated. We also have our C4, which our Engage Action Wing, which really is more when we're going out there advocating for certain policies. So when we want to talk about, the immigration rights, when we want to talk about healthcare, we want to talk about what goes on, we do that under the action. So we have an organization, we can do that under that wing. We also have a political action, we also have a PAC. So we can actually also make endorsements on candidates. And that's what we want to do most of the time.
But are you supposed to endorse only one party, Democrat or Republican?
No.
Or you are supposed to endorse the best candidate?
We always support the best candidate. And what we typically tend to do, and so we send out different surveys and polls to identify what are important topics in the Muslim community and where they're fair. Now, keep in mind, we're never going to have 100% agreement.
Right.
We're never going to have that 100%.
Definitely.
But there are certain key things that we feel are important. And what we strive to do and how our process works is, for those who are running for office and where we're operating, we would send them over what's called a PAC questionnaire that asks questions like, have you been involved with the Muslim community? Have you worked with us before?
And you send this to both Republican and Democrat?
If someone is running for office, we would send it to both of them, and we'll have them respond. And then we have a PAC that review it and grade it based off of what their reviews were. They were graded based off of what the review of it. Now, sometimes we have people who don't even submit a questionnaire return questionnaire back to us. So our goal is to try to identify those who have values that closely align with what our values are. But not only just that, and we want to see who are those who are making a conscious effort to engage with the Muslim community. Have you been out there? I remember there's someone we supported in, there were two candidates that we had in Palm Beach County running for school district. Looking at their background, they both were well qualified for it. We reached out to ICBR, one of the community leaders there, and say, hey, these individuals, you got any input? and they were like, well, this one person, we seen them come to several of the events that we had here before. So even if their resume are pretty much equal, I'm going to give the nod to them because they didn't wait till they're running for office. They've actually been engaged with us for the better part of a year and a half. Those are the things that we want to be able to say, okay, and then how do we also grow those relationships?
And that does not matter whether the candidate is Republican or Democrat.
No,
so let me